Hello chess friends and welcome to out of Chess channel and welcome back to our comedy chess games played by computer series. So in this series we're following some great games that have been played by top engines, and today I've decided to show a really wild attacking game played by the two most powerful engines in the world, played by Stockfish 15 against the top engine Drang in the beautiful King's Indian defense. And we haven't covered really recently so many great games in the King's Indian. We have forgotten a little bit about this beautiful opening because it's not also so often played in top grandmaster level, but still I'm a big fan of the King's Indian because so many wild things can happen, because it's a beautiful tactical opening, and when the best engines are playing such a tactical opening, then you can expect really a madness all over the board. So before we start to analyze the game, I wanted to tell you what happened to me last week. I had a cold, so that's why I didn't cover any games. I had to rest. My throat was really killing me. I couldn't even talk, so that's why I didn't cover any videos, but at least I worked on some graphics at home, changed a little bit also my thumbnails, and also changed this avatar of the Stockfish 15 engine. So I hope you like this new avatar, and the Dragon engine is still this avatar, this beautiful dragon picture. So as I said, I worked a little bit on graphics, and I hope that you like the future changes on my YouTube chess channel. So let's see now this beautiful tactical game, Stockfish 15 versus Dragon in the King's Indian defense. So here the fish opened with the move d4. The Dragon's response was knight to f6, c4, g6, and after move g3 we have reached now the Fianchetto variation of the King's Indian defense. And here normal development: bishop to g7, bishop to g2, kingside castling, knight to f3, d6, kingside castling, knight to c6, and knight to c3. This is a common position in these types of structures. And okay, let's stop and evaluate here the position. Let's see also the possible plans for white and for black. So the main goal, or the strategic goal for black, I think there are two strategic goals. Is a central breakthrough with the move e5. This is a normal idea in any King's Indian structure. e5, maybe e4, f5, f4. These are the normal King's Indian moves. Or you could maybe try a queenside flank attack with a rook to b8, a6, b5 with the support of the bishop. Black is also hoping to get an activity here on the queenside with the support of the bishop, with the rook activity, with this pawn storm. Black is hoping for an active game. White's strategic goal is, of course, I think, the space advantage in the center of the board. So we're trying to push the pawn here maybe on e4, if possible. Maybe e5 breakthrough is possible, but e4 d5 is, I think, the normal setup of white, where white is many times creating a space advantage and has then also an active game. So in the continuation we have a rook to b8 here played by the Dragon engine, and now an interesting choice by Stockfish 15, bishop to f4. This move is pretty good, I think, because it prevents, of course, this other idea of black that we have talked about, this move e5. e5 is now not a possibility anymore. Maybe you could try knight to h5, but still with bishop to e3, bishop to d2, this bishop will stay active in the game. So that's why, at least for a while, the e5 is not working. So in the continuation, Dragon continues with this other plan, with this flank attack on the queen side. a6, b5 is now this beautiful preparation. So in the continuation, rook to c1, and this is a beautiful move by Stockfish 15, because Stockfish sensed here. Okay, Stockfish is not sensing, Stockfish is of course calculating, but notice that when b5 happens and the c file opens, that the knight is a little bit loose. The knight is unprotected by pawn, so that's why it is a little bit a tactical problem in the continuation of the game. So we have b5 anyway by Dragon. Dragon attacks the flank, the queen side immediately. We have now knight to d5, and there are now again two choices what black can do. Black can maybe chase here the bishop with knight to h5, or can maybe play, of course, b takes c4. But b takes c4 wasn't played by the Dragon engine because, as we said, first we get this move knight to f6 because the knight was hanging, of course, bishop to f6, and look at this, the knight is hanging now on c6. You cannot take the pawn, of course, because you lose the knight. You could maybe try this one to be active here like this with the knight to a5, and actually there is even a game in the database in this particular line where white played actually the correct move, the best suggested move by the top engine. It's actually the move rook to a4, staying really active with this rook. The rook is really annoying here to handle. Now you retreat again. Look at this again, the knight is hanging here. Queen to c2, or maybe queen to c1 is an opportunity. So again, as I said, the knight on c6 is actually the huge tactical problem. But okay, after move knight to d5 here, the Dragon engine didn't take, the pawn on c4, played now knight to h5, is trying now to attack the bishop, which is, as we said, controlling the e5 square. So in the continuation, we have bishop to g5, a provocative move by Stockfish, because Stockfish is noticing again that actually when you move the knight maybe from c6, then you have a problem here around the square e7. So far the queen and the knight are protecting the e7, but if something gets cleared here, if the knight moves, then of course e7 is again a new tactical problem for black. So that's why h6, that's why I call this move a provocative move by Stockfish. Okay, you can kick away the bishop from here, it's not the point about that, but actually with the move h6, okay, you're kicking away the bishop, but you are weakening a little bit further here the pawn structure in front of the king. So that's why I think the move bishop to g5 was so far, in my opinion, one of the best moves in the game. So after move h6, okay, you had your fun as black, but now Stockfish retreats here to e3, and now comes b4. So here the dragon engine continues the plan to attack the queen side. Again, b takes c4, in my opinion, doesn't make sense. Still rook to c4 again with the attack against the knight on c6. So if you try, for instance, instead of this move b4, if you try, for instance, e6 to attack the knight in the center of the board, again you get this one, c takes b5 comes of course again with this attack against the knight. So anytime the knight on c6 is again a problem. So as I said, b4 was played by a dragon. We have now queen to d2 by Stockfish 15, attacking now the h6 weakness. So you see how important it was for Stockfish first to play bishop to g5, provoking h6, and now the h6 pawn is a huge tactical problem. So now let's stop. From this point on, the fun really starts. From this point on, the game becomes really tactical, brutal game. So in the continuation here, the dragon engine played e6, and okay, you can retreat maybe to f4, you can do many things, but Stockfish played a beautiful counter attack here with the move g4, and there are not many things that you can do. In the continuation, e takes d5 was played by dragon, but let's see if you retreat, for instance, with the knight on f6. Knight on f6 here by black is actually quite risky, because you get this one, knight takes f6, and if you take, of course, with the bishop, then your pawn on h6 is saying the only way to keep some kind of attention here is to play queen to f6, because okay, if you take now also the pawn on h6, you have also weak pawn here on d4. But actually white could play this brutal move. Look at this, g5, h takes g5, bishop to g5, and actually the queen has not so many squares now to escape. Queen to f5 would be the necessary possibility, and now look at this, we're chasing a little bit the queen further. You have to play something like queen to g4, now h3, look at this, queen takes d4, but now we can take out the knight, and the game is, in my opinion, here over for black. So this is not working. So let's go back. Knight to f6 here in this position is not working for black, so black cannot actually retreat. As we said, if you take with the bishop, then you just lose the pawn here on h6, and in my opinion, white should be much better. So that's why after move g4, the dragon engine played now e takes d5. Now we have g takes h5, and now again many things you can play. Again, the dragon engine played here king to h7, protected simply the h6 pawn. Look at this, how this h6 becomes a huge problem for the whole game. So now king to h7 was really necessary. Even if you play g5 here, if you pass through in this particular way, the problem is now you get this one, h4, and this is now quite annoying here to for black to handle. You have to play something like g4, but look at this now, knight to h2, and again the knight on c6 is a huge tactical problem. So you see how Stockfish is with particular moves attacking both sides of the board. Everything is so it's so connected. The Stockfish attack is really brutal here. Basically black has to play only reacting moves. Look at this, the knight is saying you will lose eventually the pawn on d5, you will open the c file, c7 is then a weakness. You have some worries where to go with your knight. Okay, you can maybe, as we said, take out this pawn, but it doesn't matter, we'll simply take it out, and now black is facing again many tactical problems. So as I said, that's why after move g4, look at this, we had e takes d5, e5. We had the, as we said, g takes h5. Now the king came here to h7, and now c takes d5. Anyway, the knight has to retreat now. Knight to e7. At least the dragon is now adding another defender into the game. This is really good. So far, dragon is only playing the best move, so this is the correct way to defend his position. But now Stockfish noticed that here is the tension on this diagonal, so that's why queen to c2, brilliant move by Stockfish 15, and also with the double attack against the pawn on c7. So that's why rook to b7 had to be played, and this is a very also important move by the dragon engine. The dragon engine is now trying to get somehow this rook also into the defense on the 7th rank, where it can be used maybe around the square g7. I will explain what I mean about this, because it's very important to have now this rook on the 7th rank, where it's actually defending the whole 7th rank, not only the c7 pawn. So here in the continuation, Stockfish continues the pressure around the square g6 with the move knight to h4, and now they're again only two moves I think that black could play. Black can play knight to f5, locking now this diagonal, or can play bishop to f6, attacking now the knight on h4. In the game, dragon played bishop to f6, but let's see now what happens if you play, for instance, the move knight to f5. Then we have this one. H takes g6 comes with check, you have to react. F takes g6, knight to f5, bishop to f5, and now with queen to c4, again white is much better. You have to move now the pawn, and again this is a weakness. Again white has a much better activity. So although this could be maybe a way how to defend his position, but still I like simply more white's position. You can even play here, I think, queen to a6. Look at this, this pawn is weak, this pawn is weak, so I would not love to play really this position from black's perspective. So that's why after move knight to h4, we have bishop to f6, and now Stockfish plays the immortal brutal piece sacrifice. First Stockfish plays, of course, h takes g6, we have f takes g6, but now knight takes g6, a beautiful piece sacrifice. Knight takes g6 has to be played, but now bishop to f4 continues the pressure, and now you have to add other defenders into the game. Stockfish, pardon me, dragon played here the necessary move queen to e8, but now king to h1, of course, with the preparation to play rook to g1, simply continuing the pressure around the square g6. So we have now c5. That's why this move rook to b7 was really important, to get simply new defenders into the game. Now at least the dragon engine could move the rook to g7 and further defend the knight on g6, and there are good choices here for white. White can play basically whatever white wants to play. You can play d takes c5, but actually you can even play here d takes c6 en passant, also is perfectly fine. In the game, d takes c5 was played by Stockfish. We have a rook to e7, now bishop to d3, getting out of this mess because the bishop was hanging, and now we had bishop to e5. So here the dragon engine is trying also some kind of an attack, maybe here also an attack around the square h2. If you try something like d takes c5 to take out the pawn, this wouldn't be good, because after bishop to c5, both of these rooks are lined up on the dark square, so you will lose one rook. And then also look at this, the bishop is a little bit loose here on c8, so this is not working here for black. So after move bishop to d3, as we said, bishop to e5, now we have c6. This is now a very nice move by Stockfish. This move creates a supported pass pawn. This pawn is really annoying to handle. Still we have this beautiful activity on this diagonal, and we'll continue simply the pressure. Rook to g1, rook to g2, maybe include also this other rook into the game. This bishop is also very dangerous here, targeting the h6. The h6 square will be also very important here. This will be a very nice tactical possibility. I'll explain again in a couple more moves why this h6 is also a very important square. After move c6, we have rook to g7 by dragon. Dragon is protecting now the knight further. We have a rook to g1, queen to f7, and now rook to g2. Simply continue the pressure now on the g file. So we have now bishop to f5. Again, the only move here for black to defend his position. In the continuation, we have c7 by Stockfish 15. Continue simply to push the pawn, and there are again only choices here for black. Black can play knight to e7, continue to defend the position around the square f5, or can play bishop to d3. But actually, bishop to d3 is quite risky, because you get this one, queen to d3, and still you cannot take out this pawn. If you try something like rook to c8, look at this, what happens now. As I said, the h6 is also important, because you get this stunner. Bishop to h6 is winning the game. After king to h6, look at this, queen to h3, check. Here also the rook is hanging. You have to maybe cover with the knight. Now we simply take it out. Rook takes g7, bishop to g7. Now we can take out also this one. And look at this, after queen to d5, this was my analysis at home, of course using the Stockfish 15 engine. I wouldn't come up, of course, with something wild like this at home myself, but as I said, queen to d5 would be the only move that's prolonging the game. And actually, this is quite stunning. What white needs now to play f3, for instance, knight to f3. Now queen to g4 has to come into the game, and now after something like knight to e5, discovered check, you have to play queen to g2. But now really the game is over here for black. You can just trade off the queens, but you cannot catch up anymore with this pawn, with this beautiful pawn on the c file. So again, the game would be over here for black. So that's why after c7, you see bishop to d3 doesn't make sense. So that's why knight to e7 was played by Dragon. We have bishop to f5, queen to f5, queen takes f5. But now look at this, when the rook leaves, now the protection of the 8th rank, now actually a promotion is possible. Sorry about that. Okay, we came to this point. So queen to f5, rook to f5. Now rook takes g7, bishop to g7, and now comes the really the most beautiful moment of the game. I'm not sure how many of us would play the game, or would even consider to play the game like this, because okay, Stockfish promoted here to a rook, it's not the point. But actually, after move knight to c8, the correct move is to play rook to c7, not to take the knight immediately. Staying with the rook on the 7th rank is the most important move here. Really wild stuff. The knight is trapped anyway. Look at this, these squares are taken by the bishop, these squares are taken by the rook, so the knight still cannot escape. The point about this move is that the bishop will not take out the pawn on b2. It's very important to stay in the game with the bishop on b2, because look at this now. For instance, if you try to get the rook into the defense with rook to f8, we play simply bishop to d4. You have to play rook to g8. We simply take it out now, and now it's a different story. We took out the knight in a different way, but at least we didn't lose the pawn on b2, and that's the beauty about this move here by Stockfish 15. After the promotion, knight to c8 and then rook to c7, not taking out the knight, that was, I think, the most beautiful moment of this game. Now here rook to d5 was played by Dragon. Now we have b3, getting out of this mess. At least the pawn is now not attacked by the bishop. Now you have to move the knight, but now we take it out, and it's a different story. Now it's a endgame where white should be winning, because white is simply up a whole pawn. And the cool part is we have two centralized pawns, which are also very dynamic. And also notice how beautiful these tactical calculations were by Stockfish. Rook to d2 is not possible. So if black would have had the ability to get the rook on the 7th rank attacking these pawns, then it would be also completely different story. But now the bishop on e3 is not allowing the rook to come into the game. In the continuation, we had here king to g6 by Dragon, getting out of this mess on the 7th rank. Now Stockfish plays rook to c7, rook to a5, and now rook to c2, protecting everything, regrouping. This was the whole tactical mess, but now Stockfish regrouped, has now a completely winning end. Really stunning tactical shot. So immortal endgame. I'm not sure, as I said, how many of us would play the game like this. Many of us would simply grab the knight and hope for the best, hope to maybe get the drawish position. So in the continuation, we have bishop to c3, king to g2, rook to d5. We have a beautiful move again by Stockfish, a4. Of course, you cannot take, you lose simply the bishop on c3. So after move the h5 was played by the Dragon engine. f4, we have king to f5, and now king to f3, preparing here annoying moves like f2, bishop to f2, and then also e4 is very annoying here for black to handle. So that's why rook to rook to d1, rook to c1. Again, Stockfish is not allowing any activity by the rook. Stockfish is not allowing here dragon to take any of this pawn. So rook to d5, rook to g1, bishop to f6, now h3. Keeping all of these pawns on the light square is now very, very necessary, because if you do that, then of course they cannot be attacked by the dark square bishop. So h4, we have rook to c1, bishop to c3, rook to b1, bishop to f6, rook to g1, again including the rook into the game. a5, and after move rook to e1, actually in this position, which is really wild, the dragon engine resigned. So okay, this is not the computer chess championship. This game I downloaded from the CCR Chess.com official website. The point about these games is they don't have to play till checkmate. They're playing until an engine has a huge advantage. The evaluation here is 3.2 for white, and actually when we think about this position harder, actually this is quite winning for white for sure. Look at this, we can always play something like bishop to b6, attacking both of these pawns or dark squares. We can even reroute the rook here, maybe trying to get the rook behind the pawns. The bad part for black, of course, is that the black cannot include the rook into the attack. Both of the squares are taken by the dark square bishop, so you cannot play rook to c5, rook to c3 in order to attack the pawn on b3, and you cannot also play rook to d2 in order to attack somehow the second rank. So that's why the dragon engine resigned. And there is always, as we said, the threat to play something like bishop to c1 and also e4 is then crucial. Then of course the king gets kicked away from the center of the board. So many opportunities actually are only here for white. Black is only on the defensive side. Black is also one pawn less on the board, so that's why this is a completely winning endgame. I would have love to see more of this game. I would love to see how white, of course, wins this endgame, but as I said, in this particular position they resigned, and Stockfish won the game with this beautiful endgame technique. So let's go back to this beautiful moment. So as we said here, instead of rook takes c8, rook to c7 played by Stockfish, then with the threat to play bishop to d4, and this was quite stunning. From this point on, it was a completely winning endgame here for white. So incredible game played by the Fish. Immortal tactics first. We have seen also this sacrifice around the square g6, immortal game again played by the Fish. So okay, I hope that you enjoyed the game. I really enjoyed it a lot. Interesting ideas of the King's Indian for sure. If you want to see more brutal Stockfish 15 games and then some other top engine games, check out our Commons Chess Games Played by Computer series. Here's the link of our whole playlist, and if you like this content, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. See you soon with some more videos, and what to say, chess is the best, of course.